I thought I knew who I was, until one birthday dinner led me to a shoebox in my mom's closet and a birth certificate that said my parents weren't mine. The dining room glowed with the soft flicker of candles, their light dancing across the crystal wine glasses and the delicate porcelain plates arranged on the table. The air was thick with the scent of roasted lamb and rosemary, my mother's favorite, prepared meticulously for her 55th birthday. Laughter and chatter filled the room, a symphony of family voices weaving through the clinking of silverware. My father, ever the storyteller, was midway through a tale about his latest fishing trip, his hands animated as he described the one that got away. My younger sister, Leela, rolled her eyes playfully, while my older brother, Ethan, leaned back in his chair, smirking. And there, at the head of the table, sat Mom, radiant, her silver-streaked hair catching the candlelight, her smile warm but tinged with something I couldn't quite place. Maybe it was the weight of another year, or maybe it was something deeper, something I'd never noticed before. I was the good daughter, always had been. The one who never raised her voice, who mediated when Ethan and Dad got into their shouting matches, who kept Leela's teenage secrets from Mom's prying questions. I was the glue, the one who held our family together through the cracks that appeared in every household. Divorce threats, financial strain, the quiet resentments that simmered beneath the surface. At 28, I'd built a life around being dependable, predictable, the one who never asked too many questions. But last night, as I excused myself to fetch Mom's sweater from her bedroom, that carefully constructed roll began to unravel. The stairs creaked under my feet as I climbed, the familiar sound grounding me in a house that had been my home for most of my life. Mom's bedroom was at the end of the hall, a sanctuary of soft blues and creams, with her favorite lavender diffuser humming quietly on the nightstand. I opened her closet, expecting to find the navy cardigan she'd asked for draped over a hanger. Instead, my eyes caught on something else, a shoebox tucked into the corner of the top shelf, partially hidden behind a stack of folded blankets. It was old, its edges worn and fraying, sealed shut with layers of yellowed tape. What stopped me cold was the writing on the lid. My name, Amelia, scrawled in thick black marker. My heart thudded in my chest. I glanced over my shoulder, half expecting Mom to be standing in the doorway, watching me. The house was quiet except for the muffled laughter drifting up from the dining room. I shouldn't have touched it. I knew that. But my hands moved before my brain could catch up, pulling the box down and setting it on the floor. The tape was brittle, peeling away with little resistance, and when I lifted the lid, a musty smell hit me, like old paper and forgotten memories. Inside was a collection of things that didn't make sense together. A stack of letters, their envelopes yellowed and creased. A few Polaroids, faded but clear enough to show a younger version of Mom, her hair longer, her face unlined, holding a baby I didn't recognize. And then at the bottom, a single sheet of paper that made my hands tremble so badly I nearly dropped it, a birth certificate. My name was there, Amelia Rose Carter, but the details were wrong. The date of birth was off by 3 days. The place of birth wasn't the hospital in our small Massachusetts town, but a clinic in upstate New York. And the parents' names, they weren't my parents, not the ones sitting downstairs anyway. I sat back on my heels, the closet suddenly too small, too warm. My pulse roared in my ears. I wanted to laugh it off, to tell myself it was a mistake, a clerical error, something easily explained. But the weight of the box in front of me, the deliberate way it had been hidden, told me otherwise. My mother, the woman who'd bandaged my scraped knees, who'd cried at my high school graduation, who'd taught me how to braid my hair, had been keeping something from me. Something big. I don't know how long I sat there, staring at the birth certificate, the words blurring as my eyes burned. The sound of Leela's voice calling my name from downstairs snapped me out of it. Amelia, you get lost up there or what? Her tone was teasing, but it jolted me into action. I shoved the certificate back into the box, closed the lid, and pushed it back onto the shelf, my hands clumsy with panic. I grabbed the sweater and hurried downstairs, forcing a smile as I handed it to Mom. "Everything okay, sweetheart?" she asked, her eyes searching mine. For the first time, I noticed the faint lines of worry etched around them, the way her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. "Fine," I lied, my voice too bright. "Just got distracted." The rest of the dinner was a blur. I laughed at the right moments past the mashed potatoes, nodded along to Dad's stories. But inside, my mind was a storm. Who was I? Was I even theirs? The questions looped endlessly, each one sharper than the last. By the time the cake was cut and Mom blew out her candles, I felt like I was watching the scene from outside my body, a stranger in my own life. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my old bedroom, the one I'd moved out of years ago but still visited on weekends like this one. The glow-in-the-dark stars I'd stuck on the ceiling as a kid were still there, faintly luminescent. I stared at them, trying to anchor myself, but all I could think about was that shoebox. I wanted to confront Mom right then, to storm into her room and demand answers. But the good daughter in me, the one who never made waves, kept me pinned to the bed, paralyzed by fear of what the truth might be. The next morning, I woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of Mom humming in the kitchen. It was so normal, so painfully familiar, that for a moment I wondered if I'd imagined the whole thing. But the image of that birth certificate was seared into my mind, and I knew I couldn't let it go. I waited until Dad and Leela left for their usual Sunday errands, leaving just me and Mom in the house. She was at the sink, washing dishes, her hands moving with the same quiet efficiency I'd always admired. "Mom," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Can we talk?" She turned, drying her hands on a dish towel, her expression open but cautious. "Of course, honey. What's on your mind?" I took a deep breath, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might crack my ribs. "I found something last night, in your closet, a shoebox with my name on it." Her face changed in an instant. The warmth drained away, replaced by something I'd never seen before, fear, maybe, or resignation. She set the towel down slowly, her movements deliberate. "Amelia," she said, her voice low, "you weren't supposed to see that." "Then why was it there?" I asked, the words spilling out faster than I could control. "Why is there a birth certificate with my name on it, but it's not mine? Not the one I've had my whole life. Who are those people listed as my parents? Mom, what's going on?" She didn't answer right away. She crossed the kitchen and sat at the table, gesturing for me to join her. I did, though every muscle in my body screamed to run, to avoid whatever she was about to say. Her hands were clasped tightly in front of her, her knuckles white. "I always knew this day might come," she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "I just hoped it wouldn't be like this." She told me the story then, in halting, careful words, as if each one cost her something. She and Dad had tried for years to have a child, enduring miscarriages and heartbreak before finally turning to adoption. They'd gone through an agency in New York, a private one that promised discretion. That's where they found me, or rather, where I was given to them. The details were murky, even to her. The agency had been vague about my birth parents, saying only that they were young and unable to care for me. Mom and Dad had been so desperate for a child that they didn't ask too many questions. They brought me home, named me Amelia, and built a life around me, a life where I was theirs in every way that mattered. "But the birth certificate," I said, my voice shaking. "It's different, the names, the date, the place, it's all wrong." Mom's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know everything," she admitted. "The agency gave us 2 certificates. The one we gave you, the one you've always had, was the legal one, the one that made you ours. The other, they told us to keep it, just in case. They said it was from before the adoption was finalized, from your birth mother. I never looked too closely. I didn't want to. You were my daughter, Amelia. That's all I needed to know." I stared at her, trying to process it all. The woman I'd called Mom my entire life, the woman who'd tucked me in at night and cheered at my soccer games, wasn't my biological mother. My whole identity, my name, my birthday, my story was built on a lie. Or if not a lie, then a carefully curated truth, one that left out the parts that didn't fit. "Who are they?" I asked, my voice barely audible. My birth parents, do you know anything about them?" She shook her head. "Not much. The agency was strict about confidentiality, but the letters in the box there from your birth mother, she wrote them to you before she gave you up. I was supposed to give them to you when you turned 18, but—" She trailed off, wiping her eyes. "I couldn't. I was afraid you'd hate me or that you'd go looking for her and leave us behind." I wanted to be angry. I wanted to scream at her for keeping this from me, for hiding something so fundamental to who I was. But looking at her, at the way her shoulders slumped, at the tears streaming down her face, I couldn't find the rage. All I felt was a deep, aching sadness, for her, for me, for the life we'd both thought was real. Over the next few days, I read the letters. There were 7 of them, written in a looping, careful hand on lined notebook paper. My birth mother's name was Claire. She was 19 when she had me, a college freshman who'd gotten pregnant and couldn't keep me. The letters were full of love and regret, promises to find me someday, apologies for letting me go. In one, she described the day I was born, how I'd gripped her finger with my tiny hand, how she'd sung to me until the nurses took me away. There were photos, too, of her holding me in a hospital bed, her face a mixture of exhaustion and adoration. She looked so young, so fragile, nothing like the mother I'd grown up with. I didn't know what to do with it all. Part of me wanted to find Claire to ask her the questions that burned in my chest. Why did you give me up? Where are you now? Do you think about me? But another part of me, the part that was still the good daughter, wanted to protect Mom, to keep our family intact. I was torn between two worlds, two mothers, two versions of myself. In the weeks that followed, I started digging. I contacted the adoption agency, only to find it had closed years ago. I searched online for Claire, using the scant details from the letters, but came up empty. I even hired a private investigator, a quiet man named Paul who specialized in adoption cases. He warned me that these searches often led to dead ends, but I couldn't let it go. Not yet. Meanwhile, things with Mom were strained. She tried to act normal, but I could see the guilt in her eyes every time she looked at me. Dad, who'd been told about the shoebox after our conversation, was quieter than usual, his usual bluster replaced by a kind of awkward tenderness. Leela and Ethan didn't know yet. I wasn't ready to tell them. But I could feel the secret growing, a wedge between me and the family I'd always known. One night, about a month after the dinner, I sat in my apartment, the shoebox open on my coffee table. I'd read the letters so many times I could recite them by heart. I traced my finger over Claire's handwriting, wondering what she was like now, if she'd ever tried to find me. The investigator had called earlier that day with a lead, a woman named Claire Thompson living in Vermont, who matched the age and description from the letters. It wasn't much, but it was something. I thought about calling Mom, about asking her one more time if she knew anything else. But instead, I picked up the phone and dialed the number Paul had given me. My heart was in my throat as it rang once, twice, 3 times. Then a voice answered, soft and hesitant. "Hello." "Hi," I said, my voice trembling. "Is this Claire Thompson?" There was a long pause, so long I thought the call had dropped. Then she spoke again, her voice thick with emotion. "Yes, who's this?" I closed my eyes, gripping the phone. "My name is Amelia. I think I might be your daughter." The silence that followed was deafening, but it was also a beginning. Whatever came next, whether it was answers, heartbreak, or something in between, I knew I was stepping into a new chapter of my life. The good daughter was still there, but she was no longer the only version of me. I was Amelia, daughter of 2 mothers, and I was ready to find out what that meant. So that is for today's story. If you like the story, share it with others and subscribe for this type of more stories.